Hello to my Cancers, my Scorpios, and my Pisces. These are your messages for the full moon in Libra happening on April 6th. My apologies for my tardiness. I think I got there just in time. You'll find the timestamps listed below. Hello Cancer, how are you doing? This is your horoscope for the Libra full moon on the 6th of April at 2:37 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. It happens in the afternoon, so I would suggest that evening you listen to this horoscope and enjoy the glow of this moon. It's melancholy. It feels like the entry into Aries season, the freshness of this new trip around the zodiac, everything that is hopeful and bright and beautiful about all that we have to look forward to has a checkpoint, has a moment to reflect. That's what we do at a full moon every single time. We get to say thanks for what has materialized in our lives. We get to say thank you for the relationships that we have. We get to say thank you for life. We also get to shed some tears. We get to cry if we need to. We get to feel the emotional power that the moon lords over us. You're in a really powerful moment right now, Cancer. I can really feel it. If we look here, here's Libra. Here's the moon. Here's Aries, and here's the sun. In direct opposition, 16 degrees to 16 degrees. Libra, in your chart, if you're a Cancer rising, here's Cancer in your first. Libra rules the fourth house, home, privacy, roots, stability, comfort. You're really good at this place, Cancer. This is what you spend the majority of your time working towards. And so I think that at this full moon, I really want you, as opposed to the public sides of yourself that Aries represents. Look, the sun's right there, right at the top, in your 10th house of your legacy, your career, your visibility. In direct opposition to visibility is privacy, isn't it? And this is where the moon is glowing. In the northern hemisphere, it's called the pink moon, and that's because it brings in the season of spring. I don't know if you know Nick Drake, but it might be really lovely to listen to the album Pink Moon by Nick Drake at this time. I might even put it down in the description box. You can listen if you've never heard of Nick Drake before. I think that you'll love to get to know them. But this moon is bringing with it, as far as the tarot is concerned, a moment of quiet reflection and a moment of real tenderness. So you can see these little dots that I've drawn around the edge of the zodiac. There's 360 degrees in a circle, and there are 10-degree points to be remarked upon, wedges of each sign. There's 90 degrees in a sign, 10-degree wedges. There's a tarot card for every single one of these wedges, 36 of them in fact. And the tarot card that this moon speaks to is the Three of Swords. Now there's not a great deal of explanation that needs to be articulated when looking at this card, right? We look at this image and we feel it, don't we? We understand what this moment in life is all about. What I would like to remind you is that the swords in tarot always represent our thoughts, our memories. It could be our mentality, the way that we perceive ourselves at this time. These swords are having a damaging effect on our emotional center, our heart. And so when I relate this card to the fourth house, I'm reminded of potential feelings of inadequacy or potential feelings of abandonment or loss or loneliness. And I'm sorry for that, Cancer, but I want you to look over to your 10th house. This is your legacy. The sun is here, the bright warmth. Also Jupiter, this little squiggle here, is the planet Jupiter. And this key is Chiron. I've talked a lot about Chiron in these readings. I think that I look to Chiron quite a lot to understand my life and to help read for other people. And I like that it's a key. In the mythology, Chiron was the centaur, child of the gods, who, unlike the other centaurs who had a reputation for being animalistic and lascivious and kind of hard to deal with, Chiron used their immortality, their long life, to learn the healing properties of the earth. They learnt about the plant life and how different concoctions could help to heal. They were a sage, a wise one. Folks would come to them with their grievances and Chiron would listen, help them out. They also had incredible breadth in skills, and they were teaching Hercules how to shoot an arrow. Unfortunately, Hercules misfired and shot Chiron with a poison arrow that should have killed them, but obviously it didn't because of their immortality. And so they spent the rest of their time here trying to salve this wound of their own. And they couldn't find any concoction, any medicine, any potion to salve that wound. They could recognize wounding in other folks. They could recognize exactly what the other person needed. But for themselves, they couldn't do it. So in astrology, we look to this key, and on your birth chart, it might point to the space in life where you're really good at salving other people's wounds, but you're potentially having a tricky time doing it for yourself. Transiting Chiron, as is represented by this chart, is in a conjunction with the sun. There's a lot of light on healing right now. Jupiter is double downing on that exposure. There's a brightness here. All of this stuff that's in your legacy, your public self, your career, how you heal other folks is really obvious. Cancer, that's what you're here to do, is to nurture. And this is illuminating the moon in your fourth house. And this card is talking about it. So at this full moon, I want you to gently, gently, gently remind yourself how far you've come and how good you are when confronted with this card, when confronted with these thought forms, these memories, these parts of yourself that from my eyes look like they're pretty firmly embedded. But what we do when we look at this card is we figure out the solution to remove those swords, those thoughts that are perhaps antagonizing our heart space. We remove them and then allow everything to flow from those wounds. It's a tricky moon, but I think that it's really beautiful from this vantage point. I can really see the benefit. If we have a look at the other tarot card that's polarizing, it's the Three of Wands. The sun and the moon. The sun is doing really well. Look at this beautiful image. There's divination happening here. There's a healer in the center of this card. Folks come to this individual for guidance and for comfort, and also for a bit of escape, for a bit of magic. And so this, right now, is your 10th house. That's really being really illuminated. You're really great here, Cancer. The moon is reminding us of this. So what I want to do now is pull another card and maybe find the bridge between here and here. Everybody has ancestral trauma. Everybody has a mother wound, a father wound, a caregiver wound. Try as they might, they were doing their best. We all know that. And that doesn't discount your pain. That doesn't discount how you are met with difficulty, how you are confronted by the difficult parts of life at all. As a Cancer rising, your sole purpose is to nurture. You can probably use some of that wounding, some of that example that you were given, and find the solution, find the way through. You'll nurture in a different way, maybe. The bridge between the sun and the moon is the Knight of Pentacles. So I want you to think about someone who is probably moving a bit slow at the moment. I want you to think about someone who has tilled their soil, who has prepared the ground, who is not really going anywhere, who is stable and honest and grounded in reality. And I want you to think about how they can help you build that bridge between public and private. Maybe it's someone that's in your friendship circles or someone around you that can help guide you through this lunation, but also this disparity. When we look at a birth chart, we really come to recognize the relationship between opposition and how valuable that is. It's almost the opposite of division. When you think of polar opposites, especially with the language that's being used right now, we think of us and them. This person knows that that's not important, that your public self is just as important as your private self, and that there's also information and skills that can link the two. Now, the Knight of Pentacles is practical. So perhaps rather than, this sort of, they like to ground things. They like to see results. They've got skills that can sort of build this or build that or help grow this. So who is this person? And maybe this person might be a nice one to reach out to at this full moon. They might be a nice person to have a chat with. You can say to yourself, oh God, my legacy's on my mind. What will I leave behind? Maybe they might remind you that what you're leaving behind has a lot to do with your fourth house. Your ability to be vulnerable, your ability to be private, and to take care, to take good, sweet care of folks that are suffering. This is great. 10th house is great, lofty, vibrant, beautiful, especially ruled by Aries. There's a really kind of blind confidence there. You always think about the work, you always think about, what am I going to leave behind? But I think maybe whenever there's a full moon in Libra, I want want you to remember that what you're leaving behind, Cancer, has so much more than bricks and mortar. It's to do with how you loved, how you sat with folks, how you listened to them, how you cared for them, how you lifted them up, how you named these thoughts that were recurring and provided aid to dislodge them and allow the water to flow. That's your reading, Cancer. Happy full moon. Happy full moon. We can trust the moon. We can trust the moon to remind us that our emotions are valuable. Our vulnerability is valuable. And like the tides of the ocean, they ebb and they flow. Head to umaruby.com if you'd like your birth chart read by me. It'll look something like this, but we'll talk about the planet placements as they were when you were born. And this is how you can start to understand your imprint of the universe against the current one, and the transits, the different triggers that affect our chart. Oceans of love to you, Cancer. I'll speak to you soon, and we'll talk about the hybrid solar eclipse in Aries. So it's the third chapter to this story. Something's going to give in your legacy, in your career. Something's going to tick over. If we can harness the comfort, harness our knowledge in nurturing, then we'll be ready for it. Take care, Dylan. Bye-bye. Hello, Scorpio. How you doing? My apologies for being so tardy. Hopefully these will be published just in time for you to listen to as you experience the full moon in Libra on the 6th of April at 2:37 p.m, or you can listen in the aftermath and you can perhaps see the correlation to maybe some of the messages that I've got for you as to how you are maybe feeling at the time of that full moon. So I've drawn us a little chart here that we can look at. This is our universe. This is our stratosphere. And you can see the moon is here at 16 degrees of Libra in direct opposition with the sun here at 16 degrees of Aries. And so this is forming that perfect light to make the full moon. Now for you, for your chart, this is Scorpio here in the first. Libra is in charge of your 12th house, which is your unconscious realm. It's your access to your dreamland, your ancestors, your past lives, whatever language you like to use. And some doesn't have to be that literal. Sometimes it can be that feeling that we have that we don't know the answers. We don't know what's going on. Why did I have that dream? Why was I thinking about that? And the next day it appeared, I was thinking about bananas. For whatever reason, I had this really weird dream about bananas, and then I woke up the next day and a banana truck drove by, or there was a sale on bananas at the supermarket. That's a dumb example, but hopefully it can illustrate what I'm talking about. We don't want to bog these readings down too much with sort of cosmic philosophy, although it's something that I'm really interested in. But I have a lot of faith in the 12th house. It's a place that I feel really comfortable in. I can always turn to my dreams, or I always remember my dreams, and it's interesting to see how they play out for me as time goes on. And as an example, I had a dream probably about a week ago now, where I was at a chateau and everyone was speaking Italian. I couldn't speak the language, and I was responsible for harvesting the raw olives and also the Chardonnay grapes. And it was my responsibility to make wine, and I used the wrong thing. I used the olives instead of the grapes, but nobody told me. Everyone looked at me with judgment. And this mean old Italian nonna just set a glass down in front of me of what I had made. And she gestured for me to drink it. And I drank it, and my mouth was filled with that hideous, poisonous taste of raw olives. And I'd got it wrong. Sometimes when doing this work, it can be a bit of a trip. You can second guess yourself, second guess your translation of what you see before you. And you can think to yourself, am I being responsible? Am I doing the right thing? This is healing work, and this does provide a lot of comfort and a lot of satiation for other folks. And it doesn't have to be so literal as this kind of work. You could be making healing gestures through your artwork, through your creativity, through the songs that you sing or the paintings that you create. You could just be a really lovely, diligent person that is trying to make the best of the time that they have here and trying to make their offerings valuable for other people. And you can second guess yourself sometimes. You can think to yourself, oh God, I've got it wrong. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm shit. This is when this card can sometimes come into effect. And it's funny because it just so happens that the moon at 16 degrees is filling up the second decan, the second wedge of Libra. These points here mark 10-degree points in the zodiac. And the tarot card that correlates with this second degree wedge, second decan wedge, I should say, of Libra, is the Three of Swords. And when I look at this, you can see that these swords in the tarot are representative of our thoughts, the way that we think about ourselves, perhaps what's been said to us before, or the way that we have come to translate the world from our past experiences. Definitely in the 12th house, this past experience could be this lifetime, it could be lifetimes gone by. Our unconscious world can play tricks on us. And if we're in our mind, in our head, in our swords, our brain, who's doing its best job to try and protect us at all times, that's what its motivation is, to save us from harm. And so we learn sometimes that to preempt danger or preempt pain, and it kind of keeps us in a specific space. It doesn't allow us to grow or to think magical thoughts or to trust ourselves. Even if we do, like me, I'm quite a magical thinker. That's how I like to relate myself, my experience to the world. But my triggers, my past pain can come up and can really step in my way, really damage my heart to the point where I think that I'm serving up olive juice instead of champagne. So I want you to work with this moon, and I want you to investigate your dreamland. Maybe it might be really nice to look at the moon and then to take note of what you're dreaming about as you go to sleep. What are you being told time and again, unconsciously, that perhaps there's a bit of room to set yourself free from that? You can see over here in Aries, the sun is lighting up your 6th house of your reality, your daily life, your feet on the ground. And there's the asteroid Chiron here and Jupiter. And so I feel that there's some sort of support, some sort of extra emphasis on your daily rhythm, your daily routine, hopefully the way that you regulate your Three of Swords is something that shows up in your reality, your daily life. Perhaps you're really good at cooking dinner for yourself. Perhaps you're really good at remembering to brush your teeth and to wash your hair and to care for your body when things get a little bit tricky in the 12th house, when things get busy and judgmental in there. I like it that the 16-degree point of Aries, in fact the 20 and 15-degree point too, the second decan of Aries, speaks to the Three of Wands. So in your daily rhythm, there's a magical quality to that. I'd like to see that you have systems in place, Scorpio. You have systems of grounding that might have to do with rocks or crystals or herbs, or not even that. Maybe it's just to do with physical exercise, or it's to do with your favorite animal. It's to do with your happy memories, memories that are in contrast to these difficult ones. And this is how you regulate your system. You've got a favorite food, and you know that you eat that when you need some grounding. You need to smell it and to taste it to remind yourself of the simple beauty of life. So I want to pull one more card for a bridge between your unconscious self and your very conscious, very grounded, real self, to give you some extra support at this moon, because it is a tricky one. I can speak from experience. And it's a shame too, because I don't wish for the astrology to step in my way of my progress, and it's not. I think when you really witness it, you can provide yourself with a bit of comfort and understand that there is light and there is shadow. Both are so important. That's what a full moon is here for, to remind us of the beauty and the importance of shadow. The bridge that I can see for you, that you can build between your 6th and your 12th house, is the King of Wands. Ask questions. If you don't know, ask. If you're feeling that you've got more to learn, then you can ask, and you're not stupid for asking. None of us know everything. In fact, we need one another to continue our journey to learn. If there's someone that's filling you with confidence in your abilities, you let them know that you trust them and you want to learn more. If you watch someone, if there's someone in your environment, you're sort of like, how do you do that? How do you know? Ask them, because they want to encourage you in this. That bridge between the 12th and the 6th is a tricky one to build. And sometimes it can leave us feeling like we're out of our mind, that we're losing it, that we've lost it, that we're slipping away, that we're stupid, or that we're crazy. That's something that can be said of us or used as a weapon quite often. Oh, you're crazy, you're nuts. What are you doing with your life? I feel that the bridge to connect this and this lays in an influence. There's someone that you trust, that you marvel at, that you can really see that they're at a certain level of mastery in their craft, or there is a certain level of confidence with their abilities. And maybe it's even like some sort of teacher, like someone that can offer lessons in what it is that you wish to learn about. But it has a lot to do with magic, my darling. It has a lot to do with the mystical parts of life. It has a lot to do with suspending disbelief. It has a lot to do with translation as well. And it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be it's not going to be so much like a book that you can read, or it's not going to be like a 12-step program, or it's not going to be like a qualification. But it's going to be a conversation, and maybe a bit of spell work too, I'm not sure. But as a Scorpio, you know the depths that we can plunge into, and your 12th house is probably quite deep. And so to bring yourself from that, to bring yourself up to the surface, I feel that there's someone in your company that can help provide you with that and be supportive. Their magic is not to put themselves on a platform separate from you. They use their magic to help. They can understand the 12th enough to bring it into reality. That's your reading, Scorpio. I adore you, and I hope that this Three of Swords is something that you can really sit with and you can unpick through journeying a little deeper into your dreams, to understanding how or what your dreams are trying to tell you. What bits are true and what bits aren't true. What are you capable of? I'll speak to you soon. We're going to be experiencing a hybrid solar eclipse in Aries right here. So just as the sun enters into Taurus, as we enter Taurus season, it's going to be intercepted by an eclipse right before the same day, within hours. So it's really something to remark upon. And I'm doing my study and research now as to figure out what that might mean for us. So do tune back in. You can head to umaruby.com and get your birth chart read by me as well if you'd like to. It'll look something like this, but the planets will lay where they did when you were born. And that makes the difference. Until I speak to you soon, thanks for sticking by me. Thanks for your patience. Much love. Take care. Bye. Hello, Pisces. This is your horoscope for the full moon in Libra. It's happening on the 6th of April at 2:37 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me, so it's quite soon. I apologize for my tardiness. I've been working on some shit, which I'm sure that we'll get into as the reading goes on. First up, let's cool our jets. Let's relax a little bit. Let's get away from the idea that we are at the mercy of other people's approval, and that we don't have the stuff to get through life when the going gets tough. As much as Aries season, and you can see here on this chart, the sun is right here in Aries. We're still talking about the second house, your value system, your priorities, your ability to earn cash and provide, feather a nest for yourself. There's also some lovely company with Jupiter and with Chiron, so there's an opportunity to kind of uncover perhaps where some of this wounding might sit for you. The moon is over here in Libra at 16 degrees, that opposition forming that full moon. In opposition to the second house is the 8th. The 8th is where we experience grief and sorrow and loss, where we find ourselves bound to other souls. We feel the intensity of that union, and then we have to set that free. It's also how we feel obligated in some way to the resources of other people It might be in a way of family money, you know, lineage and inheritance and stuff like that, or it might be the way that our financial structures are linked up to other folks and how we rely on each other. A full moon here is a powerful moment to have a real think about all of the work that we've been doing about our self-worth and our value in this life, all of the plans that we've made, all of the optimism and the hope that's presented here for us. And it's a time to witness and to recognize how much of our experience is intertwined with somebody else's, and to release some of the pressure that might bring with it. So you can see these white dots around the zodiac, right? This is 360 degrees of our universe in a two-dimensional drawing. And each sign holds court over 90 degrees of that system. And in turn, each sign can be broken down into 3 wedges, 3 sections. There's a tarot card for every 10-degree wedge of the zodiac. And right now, the full moon in Libra speaks to the 3 of Swords. And so I see here thoughts, memories, opinions, maybe coming from yourself, maybe coming from your experience with other folks, but about your worth, about your ability to take care of yourself, about what you think is valuable about you and what you need and rely on in terms of your experiences with other people. And what I see here, when we look at the swords in tarot, we know that these are our thoughts, these are the swords of truth for sure, but there's something to do with our brain that is having an effect over our physical body, our emotions. And the moon is doing that too. So what I see here is moments where we felt that we weren't worth comfort, we weren't worth love, we weren't worth commitment. And there's a retaliation between that and what we're developing and building for ourselves. We're proving ourselves to ourselves, I think, Pisces. And you can see here Saturn, the rules and regulations, the taskmaster of Saturn is at 3 degrees in our first house. And that's good. That's going to help us through. Also, Mars has left Gemini and has entered Cancer, the house of our self-expression. So we're ready to go. We're actually forming a positive relationship between the rules. We're keeping our soul's purpose in check by our creativity, the passion and our creative drive. We're trying to express ourselves in ways that we possibly hadn't before. And these memories or these opinions, these recollections of worthlessness or inability are coming to the surface at the moment to break up our good stride in our second house. We're onto a really good thing here, Pisces, and we're really building it and we're building it up. But I tell you what, this looks to me like lack. You're shit. You can't commit to anything. Your ideas aren't worth it. You're hopeless. You're stuck in the clouds. You don't know what hard work is. All of these things can they're showing themselves to me in this reading here. You know, the 8th is powerful. The 8th is really integral to it. Maybe it's sort of like you don't know love. You don't know contracts. You don't know commitment. No one wants to do that with you because you don't have what it takes. Remember that the swords are just thoughts. And our brain, as frustrating as it might be, is trying to protect us, isn't it? It's trying to protect us from future harm. It's living too far in the future preempt what may happen, which may have this emotion present itself in our lives again, this rejection, this abandonment. So it's a moment of reflection, isn't it? This full moon. It's not going to stop the progress in our second house, where we find value in ourselves and our ideas, where we learn how to take care of ourselves financially and otherwise, where our autonomy truly exists. And look, if we're talking opposites, 16 degrees, the second decan of Libra is the Three of Swords. The second decan of Aries is the Three of Wands. Look at that beautiful face and look at those magical tools. Look at that crystal ball. There's sincerity here. There's seeing into a different way of being, and that's what you're perfect at, Pisces. That's your soul's mission, is to connect us all, to see the way clear of the illusion of this current reality. And I know that it's so easy to dissociate when met with this stuff. I know that it's so easy to want to slip away, or to, grab the bottle, or whatever it is that happens for you when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're feeling like you can't do it. But remember that this is support here. Chiron tells the story of the wounded healer, Chiron's the one that can witness the pain of others and knows exactly what to do, exactly what potions to make, exactly what to say, to divine with their magical tools, to provide comfort and understanding and healing for other people. This is in your second house. This is your mission statement, my love. At the moment, the moon is shining a light on these residuals. Because if we can remove these swords, we can allow that water, that emotion to flow. We can be Pisces. We can dip into the ocean and feel it, be moved by our emotions, allow them to guide us to a place of comfort. It's difficult when you've been trained to go it alone, and when the 8th house is kind of empty, when you haven't been able to rely on other people, when your needs haven't been able to be met by other folks, or when you've denied or sabotaged potential connection, potential relationship, potential collaboration because of your own swords, your own insecurities. You're preempting the idea of this intimacy because you're like, no, this is how I operate. This is who I am. I can't do this. I'm stupid. I'm dull. I'm unlovable. These swords can really get in the way of all of the intense lessons that we have to look forward to in the 8th house. And this moon is here to remind you of that. So you can work away in your second house, honey. It's great. I'm glad for you. But you're not doing it alone. You don't need to do it alone. You've been trained that you've had to do it alone in the past, for sure. But this is why we look at these hieroglyphs. This is why we look at these same cards again and again. There's only 78, I should say. Get your facts straight, Kim. There's only 78 tarot cards, but the stories that they provide for us are limitless, but depending on how we choose to look at them. It's the same as the astrology. I would see this moon as an open invitation to look at how you've been feeling and how judgmental you've been about your worth or your contribution. You've been feeling inadequate in the face of other folks, or you're feeling that your ideas don't match theirs, or you feel that you are indeed unlovable, and that perhaps romantic connection might not be something that you can bear face again for fear of this happening again. But that's just not true. It feels true. It looks true. And Lord knows we'd all like to avoid this ever happening again. But then we avoid life. then we avoid experiencing the beauty. And that's heartbreaking. That's a much sadder story than coming interface with this again and sitting with it and listening to it and learning from it and recognizing that you and everybody else, this connects us. This with the swords, this without the swords too. That's why this image can be so confronting, is because this heart, this beautiful shape, this center of love, we know how gorgeous and lovely and gentle and inspiring that is. We want to protect it, but we can't protect it by stabbing it with our brain, by cutting ourselves off at the knees, by disallowing ourselves the potential of connection with others, the potential contract that can be signed in truth and honesty and clarity. You're worth it, my friend. You're worth it. Your work is worth it. Your heart is worth it. You are worth it no matter what you do. And it feels good to love, doesn't it? It feels good to connect. It feels good to be excited. That's what Pisces is encouraging all of us to understand. That's what Pisces' soul mission is. I leave the cosmic home, and turning back I save. Come along. Dive right in, the water's fine, everyone. Wow, we're so psychically connected. Beautiful, truthful, honest, freeing. Let's pull a bridge. I want one more card, Pisces, to see how we can connect your sense of self-worth with your collaborative forces, with your ability to join hands with other folks on this game of life and to invest in them, and for you to allow the other to invest in you, to stop shutting it down, to stop avoiding it because somewhere in your brain you think, oh, I'm just going to fuck it up again. I'm the worst. One card, who's the bridge? Who's the bridge, Spirit? Where can we find this bridge? I feel that this is kind of out of your hands, Pisces. You can resist, you can protest, you can keep yourself safe, you can block it all out. There's someone that is like a bull out of the gate. They're coming towards you. They're carrying a flag of fire, of magic. They're going to douse your second house. They're going to douse your work, your ability to provide for yourself. They're going to tell you, no. You are worth it. I believe in you. I believe what you're telling me. And this is what I can provide. This is how I can help this along. This is my heart in my hand, beating. There's going to be little resistance for you, Pisces. And when it comes, trust it, you know? Look at this penny farthing. Who on earth? I could only actually ride a bike. Recently, I had a beloved teach me how to ride 2 wheels. I couldn't do it when I was a kid because I thought that I was dumb and inadequate. These swords were telling me, you can't do it, you can't do it. Something that was said to me when I was a child, you know? But I had a beloved teach me how to ride a bike. But look at this penny farthing. Who on earth? Like, that looks precarious to me. But this person doesn't care. This person is like, no, do you trust me? Come on. Let's go. Let's do this thing. You believe me, I believe you. Trust. The 8th house can teach us so much about trust. We trust that it's going to be painful. at some point, because everything comes to an end, we also trust that it's going to be beautiful and sincere and real. That's your reading, Pisces. Thank you for sticking by me. I apologize it's so late. I'm coming out the other side of this block, hopefully, but I'm not going to be reprimanding myself if it comes up again. What I will say is that we've got a lot to prepare for this eclipse that's happening as the sun leaves Aries and enters Taurus. There'll be an eclipse in Aries. A solar eclipse, a hybrid solar eclipse. So this second house is going to be almost out of our control. And so let's really work with our sense of value, our sense of self-value, self-worth. You're worth it, Pisces. You're worth it. You can trust this character, this Knight of Wands on the penny farthing. Looks dangerous, but you can trust them, okay? Go with it. Go to it. Much love to you. Take care.